Okay, let's get started on the Halakha Gemara. We are on Daf Samach Beis Amud Aleph, 5 lines from the top, and we were discussing the machlokes between Reb Meir and Reb Chanina ben Gamliel, where Reb Meir holds you need a t'nai kafel, and Reb Chanina ben Gamliel says that you don't need a t'nai kafel. Zok to Gemara b'shlama Reb Chanina ben Gamliel that you don't need a t'nai kafel. Hayu d'chsev. That's why there is no t'nai kafel by Satan. It says im loy shachav ish oisach. Im loy tatis tumatachas isha chinaki. But it doesn't say the other side, if she was guilty. El Reb Meir chinaki mibayla. According to Reb Meir, instead of saying chinaki, it should have said chinaki, because then we could darshan chinaki connected to the next project where it says v'atki satis. So by saying chinaki, it would at least indicate that we're trying to make a t'nai kafel. It says hey naki without the yud between the hey and the nun, which means to tell us that hey naki should be read hey naki, but if she's guilty, hey naki. So it's that not typical spelling that's the indication, in fact, that there's a t'nai kafel here. The Dr. Gemara, Reb Meir, hey naki. According to Reb Meir, we understand why the Torah uses a not typical word, heinaki, because it's trying to indicate the t'nai kafel. Why did the Torah say unusual lashon of heinaki? As Rashi speaks out, you know what the Torah could have said? The Torah could have said, techaya. If you didn't do anything wrong, you'll live. What's up with the lashon heinaki? That must be signaling that we need t'nai kafel. Dr. Gemara, Itzrich. I would have thought, if you're not guilty, you're clean. And if you are guilty, you're not going to be clean. You have an avera, but you're not going to be chayv misa. Elisur ba'alma. Kamash malan chenaki. That if you're guilty, there's going to be a misa on the woman. Now we're going to ask, according to Reb Meir, Haini D'chsev, by the parasha of Paraduma, the Torah says, "Hu yischata boy, v'yom hashlishi u'v'yom hashvi yitar," and then the Torah says, "V'im lo yischata lo yitar," which is t'nai kafel. El Reb Chanina ben Gamliel lama li. Why would the Torah write a t'nai kafel? Dr. Mar Itzra, so kedai techamina mitzvah tzazah b'shlishi u'v'shvi. Hu yischata boy just told you there's a mitzvah. That doesn't mean it's ma'akif. It's a mitzvah to have 2 zrikas. But if you only did 1 zrika, it would still be a good tahira. It's just that the Torah is going to tell you a mitzvah, hu yischata. It doesn't say im yischata, it says hu yischata. It's a mitzvah to do it. But if you didn't do it, you only had 1 answer instead of 2, maybe you'd also have your tahira. Kamash malan, v'imloi, if you don't do the zrika both on the 3rd day and 7th day, then you don't have to hire. Kamash malon. Now the Gemara asks, Sai according to Reb Meir, Sai according to Reb Chanina ben Gamliel, the Torah in a couple of psukim later repeats the same halacha. V'hiza hatar al atame v'yom hashlishi v'yom hashvi. Lamali. Why did the Torah repeat that order? Zok the Gemara Itzrich. So kedai dechamina, I would have thought shlishi is l'm'ute shteni, and Shvi is Lamute Shish. In other words, it has to be done on the earliest, the 3rd day, and then the 7th day. And that wouldn't be allowed to be done earlier, because you're decreasing the amount of days in the sequence that it takes to become tar. What if there's a Zika on day 3 and there's a Zika on day 8? So what we're doing is we're extending the period of Tahira, the Kamapish B'mei Tahira. Ema Shaper Dami, maybe that would be good and it would work. Kamash Malam, that it has to be done Dafka B'Shlishi U'B'Shmi. I'm sorry, B'Shlishi U'B'Shvi. Zok Gemara, there's another pasuk that again repeats the same idea. It says V'Chitoi B'Yom HaShvi. Lovely. Zok Gemara Istrich, Sagadaita Chamini Hanamili Kachim. I would have thought, when do you need the 2 zrikas to be mitayar somebody? That's that they can eat kachim. Aval truma, maybe bechad namisak. To be mitayar someone for truma, maybe it would be enough If you only had one zrika, kamash malam, that you need both zrikas in order to have tahira even for truma. Beautiful. Now we're starting a new sugya, starting from the new Mishnah. A mekadesh is a isha, the Amar. He was mekadesh a woman without any tanai, but he had a certain expectation that was not met. The Amar, he said, Kisavar hayisi, shehi kahanis. I thought that this woman that I married was a kahanis, but in fact she's not. Arei Levia, she's just a Levia, or Levia. I thought she was a Levia. Arei he kahanis, and she's a kahanis. Again, I'm disappointed with my wife, but there was no t'nai made. Or Ania, I thought she was poor and low maintenance. Arei Ashira, or Ashira, I thought he was wealthy. Arei Ania. In all these cases, I raised him mikudeshes. And then she didn't fool him. She never said I was in the shira, I was in the Nia, I was a kahanis. So therefore, it's a good kedushin. And since there's no tanai, we don't say that since he thought in his mind about this condition, it should be valid. It's a dvarim shavalev and dvarim. What about Aimer Isha read mikudeshes lilachash gayer? A guy said to a Jewish woman, "I'm going to be mekadesh you now, Almanas, that it should be chal after I'm a guy." Or this guy read, or he spoke to a non-Jewish woman, and he told the non-Jewish woman, "I want to be mekadesh you after you become Jewish." Or if he was a servant, and then Kanani said la'akash at the stakher. Or if he was Jewish and she was a shivcha, la'akash at the stakari. Or he went to a nation's ish and said, "I want to be mekadesh you la'akash sheyamas b'lecha," after your husband dies. Or he went to his wife's sister and said, "I want to be mekadesh you la'achar shetamas achitzecha," after your sister dies. Or he went to a woman who's mechuyev in yibum and he was mekadesh her la'achar sheyachlo itzleich yibam. All these cases is eina mikudesh. It's not a good kedusha. He tried to be mekadesh a woman who's not mikudeshable. So if someone tells his friend whose wife was not even expecting, and he told his friend whose wife was not expecting, if your wife gives birth to an akeva, I want to be mekadesh now. Ain't a mekudeshes, it wouldn't be a good kedusha. Zok the Heilige Gemara. Can I me learn? Ein termin min atolish ala mucham. The halacha is there's only a chiyuv trumas and maishers on daga. Daga means it's processed produce. But if it's still growing, it hasn't been cut down yet, it hasn't been harvested yet, it has no din truma, it's not even teva. So therefore, if you try taking some tevel and you mafish it as truma on produce that's not even cut down yet, the produce that you designated as truma is not truma at all. It remains teva. And therefore, v'imtaram ain't truma, say truma. It would not be truma at all. Boimin Rabasi Rabbi Yochanan. Rabasi asked Rabbi Yochanan the following side. Omar, if someone said, Pears arugazu, solution, these pears which are already cut down, you truma al pears arugazu muchabar, should be truma for these pears from muchabar, but he added some information, which we'll see in a moment. Or pears arugazu muchabar, you truma al pears arugazu tlusha, but he said lichnish yitlush. When should it be chal? When I cut it down. Vinitlishu, and then he cut it down. Ma, would it work then? Zok Rabbi Yochanan, a bomb shel chiddush. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan said, Kol shebiyadoi laf k'mechusam ha'shadam. Since it's biyadoi to cut down this tvua, we don't look at it like it's cut down. We don't look at it like it's still standing. We look at it like it's already tolish. Since he could be tolish it whenever he wants, we look at it like it's tolish, and therefore in this case it would be a good truma. And Rashi tells us a huge chiddush. Truma limafreya. It's truma already now before he cuts it down, because since he could cut it down, we perceive it as if it's cut down already. Eitz, so the Gemara challenges Rabbi Yochanan's halacha. Our Mishnah, or la'achashet is gairi, or la'achashet is tachver, or la'achashet is tachri, or la'achashet yamos by lecha, or la'achashet tamas achisecha, la'achashet yakutz lech yivimit. All these cases are enim mekudesh, it's a davar shaloi b'loy. I understand all of the cases in the Mishnah. Lav biyadoi. He couldn't have done anything to change the status, and therefore it's not a good kedushin. Elo ger. If a guy says, I want to be the kaddish you after I become a ger, have a biyadoi. He could become a ger. He could be megayer. So why do we say it's not a kedushin? According to Rabbi Yochanan, anything that's biyadoi, like a person to become a ger, is lav k'mechosamaitza. So we should look at him like he's a yid already. Zok the Gemara, that's not true. Ger nami lav biyadoi. A ger also, he can't just on his own decide that he wants to be a ger. The Omer Reb Chiya bar Abba Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Reb Chiya bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, and we're going to turn over to Samach Beis Amud Beis. Ger tzorach shloisha. In order to become a ger, you need 3 people. And Rashi says you need 3 people to toivel him and to be moidia him the mitzvahs. Toshva says to toivel him you don't need 3. You need 3 to be moidia him the mitzvahs. Why? How do you know a ger needs 3 people? My time in mishpat ksivei. The Torah says mishpat echad yilachem kager kaezra. Kidin. It's just like paskening the demominus, which requires 3 dayanim. And therefore, miyemar de mistakakule. It's not biyadai to become a ger, because he needs access to a bedin. Who said he'll have that? Okay. Miyemar de mistakakule hanitlos. Again, we're going to challenge Rabbi Yochanan, who says anything that's biyadai is lav k'mechoser mais. Elamayata. And noise and fruit l'shivchasai. Someone gives a fruit to his shivcha. Now his shivcha, it's definitely biyadai to free her. But yet he gave her a penny, he gave her a pruta. V'amaret mukadeshes li la'achar after I free you. Hachanami to have a kedushin. Are you going to say that it's a kedushin because it's biyadai to free her? But it's not a kedushin. So it's shver on Rabbi Yochanan who says that anything that's biyadai is lav k'mechuser ma'aser. There's a very big difference. There's such a vast chain from a shivcha to Yisraelis. Even if it's biyadai, we don't say there that kol should be biyadai lav k'mechuser ma'aser, because Haza meikar behema. Before he freed her, she had the status of a behema. Now she's a completely new person. Therefore, even though it's biyadai, this is an exception to Rabbi Yochanan's halacha that anything that's biyadai is lav k'mechuser ma'aser. Ve'el hadam Rabbi Yoshia said, what if someone gives a fruit to his wife? V'yarmel, and he tells her, Harayat mikudeshes li lachesh gershayim. You should be mikudeshes to me after I divorce you. In other words, just in case I divorce you, I'm marrying you again. You're not bad for a civic shady. The halacha is any mikudeshes, it doesn't work. Look, the more hakanami the Rabbi Yochanan to have a kedushin. Are you going to tell me according to Rabbi Yochanan it's a kedushin because it's biyadai to give her a divorce? Look, the Gemara not so simple. Yes, he can give her a divorce, but the yodei lakacha, who said she'll want him back? So therefore, that's not called biyadai. Zok Gemara. So now that you're stating that marrying a woman after you divorce her is not biyadai, and therefore it won't work, it's considered the davar shloi b'lo'olam. Tivshot, we should be able to be punched at a shaila the boy Rav Hoshia. What was the shaila? A man went to a single woman and he gave her 2 prutos. And those should stay prutos l'isha. And he has a lot of hope for his marriage. And then look at what he said. Marry me today with this pruto. And with the second pruto he said, he has a lot of confidence in his marriage lasting, that while he's marrying her, he's giving her a second set of kedushin to remarry her after he divorces her. So based on what you're saying, it shouldn't be a good kedushin, because you said that it's not biyadai. So tivshit, we know they'll have a kedushin. So what was the Ravo Shaila based on you? There shouldn't be a Shaila. Zok to Gemara, no, there's a very big difference. Dilma ki heiche the tavs kedushin hashta tavs nami la'achake. In the case when someone's mekadosh his own wife, right now his wife is not in a status where he could marry her, where anyone can marry her. She's an eshes vid. That's why it's not a good kedushin. But here, right now, before anyone married her, and he's about to marry her the first time and the second time, maybe there it would work because right now she is marriage material. And therefore, Rabbi Avo would still have a shayla. We have a bride that supports Rabbi Yochanan that and this is the brisa. Ein tarmin min atol shalom mechuber. Bim tarm ein truma truma like we learned in Amar Aleph. Ketzad Amar Peres Arugazu Telushin you truma Peres Arugazu mechuberes or Peres Arugazu mechuberes you truma Peres Arugazu Telushin loy amaklo. And here's where the brisa says exactly what Rabbi Yochanan said. Aval Amar lichesh hayitlishu v'nitlishu devar kayamin. So here you have a brisa that's a right to Rabbi Yochanan. And the brisa goes even further than Rabbi Yochanan. Yes, not only if you have pears that are fully grown and are ready to be harvested, does Rabbi Yochanan say that even if these produce is not even ready to be cut yet. Afilu Omar pears arugazu telushin, you trumal pears arugazu mechuberes, or pears azu mechuberes, you trumal pears arugazu telushin. Which means now they're not even a third grown yet. They're such premature pears. But he did it, v'yitlishu, and I'll cut him down with the reviu shlish, v'yaviu shlish v'nitlishu, and he did it dvarf kayom. So Rabbi Yochanan's halacha of is even if it's not biyodei right now, because it's not even fully grown yet. Rather, he's saying now that when it's fully grown, I'm going to cut it down. That's also going to be lavka mechushemaisa. So I'm taking it a lot step further. Now we even have a discussion to what degree Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov said that even immature, barely grown produce, you can also be mafresh trumam. How far does that go? Amar Rabba, lo yomer Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov el b'shachas. Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov said that even Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov holds there has to be a certain level of growth, and that's called shachas. Shachas, Rashi tells us, means that it's good for animal feed. It's not yet sprouting properly. It's not yet ready to be human feed, but it's still at the point where there's a stock here and it can be animal feed. That's good enough that we consider it there that he can be mafresh, trumas, and maishas. But Rabbi Yosef takes it a step further. If we just have like some blades of grass pushing through the surface of the earth, that is not grown enough to be able to be mafresh trumas and maishas. But Rabbi Yosef takes it a step further, and he said, "Afilu ba'agam." Even if we have small little sprouts coming through the ground, even that's considered enough grown that you can be mafresh trumas on it. Zok Gemara, my mashvadai agam lishna de butzlana. How do you know that the Shloshna Agav means that it's a small little sprout? Omar Balazud Amar Kro, Halakov Ke'egbon Yosha. A small little sprout that's long enough that you could bend it over so that the top touches itself. That's a sprout. And it says Halakov Ke'egbon Yosha, you're going to bend its head like a fish hook. So you see, the Loshna Agmoin is talking about the shape of a fish hook where something is bent over. Zok to Gemara. So now we have a discussion. There needs to be a certain level of maturity in order to say it's lafka mechusham ma'isa. The question is it a little sprout or is it at least animal feed, which is a little bit more of a stock? So command that to the Tanya. We looked at our Mishnah. But Rabbi Chanina added in the Brisa, that's only if she's not pregnant yet. If she's pregnant yet, that's already like the fruit starting to sprout. That's already lav mechushemaisa, the varf kayom. So the question is, how pregnant, how far along in her pregnancy does she need to be? And the Gemara wants to parallel that to the Machlokes Rabbah and Rabbi Yosef, how far the fruit had to sprout already. Is it enough if it's just a sprout like Rabbi Yosef, or does it have to be a stalk already like Rabbah? So talking about Ika Rabbah, usually like Rabbah, by pairs, that has to be a stalk, then this Kiddushin won't work unless it's Kishahuk or Ubra, if she's already showing. But Ika Rabbi Yosef, if you hold it for pairs, it's enough. Just have a little blade of a sapling pushing through the earth, then we would say that it would be a good Kiddushin if someone was Makalish the Uber, Avabi Shalayok or Ubra, even if she's not even showing yet, she just knows that she's pregnant. Vikadamri Amar Rabba. There's another nusach about what Rabba said. Even shachas has restrictions. It's only shachas that growing in a field that gets enough rainwater so that even if there's no human intervention, we know it's going to develop. Similar to an uber, that naturally it will develop into a child. Aval b'shachas, the veishakya. But if it's in a field where, unless mankind continues to irrigate it manually, it won't grow. Eloi. That's not good enough to be considered here. So what in this nusach what Rabbi is saying is we only consider a premature peri as something that's here if it will on its own with nature develop fully. If it requires human intervention, that's not called complete enough. Zok to Gemara, Kaman Oslo, based on that, Kaman Oslo, the Tanya, Harman Chaverim Yal Dishach and Kevin Mukadeshly, Leomer Klum, Yomer Chanina Lashana Lashanish Muberes, Avalish Muberes, Dora Kayaman, Kaman, you're going to have to say it's Kishhoker over Vidiver Kol. There for sure it has to be further along, because even Rabba holds that it needs to be further along. Amar Rabbi. Amar Rabbi. Rabbi Eliezer, Ben Yaakov, Verebi, Reb Meir, all these three Heilige Tanoim, Kulu Svir Lahu, they all hold Adam Makna Davar Shalai B'Layla. You could make inyanim with a Davar Shalai B'Layla. Rabbi Eliezer Ben Yaakov Adam Amar. He said you could be mafresh trumas and maisris even on barely grown stalks. Rebbe, where did Rebbe tell us that you could be makna davar shalei b'layla? So let's turn onto Samach Gimel Amar Aleph. It says in the pasuk, "L'saskir eved al adoinu." Don't lock an eved to his master. What is this pasuk referring to? Rabbi Yomer b'lakech eved almanas l'shachar pasuk medaber. If you buy an eved, almanas to be mishacharit, so it's a davar shalei b'layla. Because how could you be mishacher an eved before you buy it? And Rabbi holds that that's what the pasuk is talking about. And if someone's mishacher an eved even before he buys the eved, davar shalei b'layla, the eved is still free. And the Gemara elaborates. Zok the Gemara. Rabbi Yomer b'lakech eved almanas l'shachar pasuk medaber hechidami. What's the case? Amar B'nacham b'Yitzchak going to Kosav lei. He told him, "Li kisha ek kacha." You go over to somebody else's eved and you tell them, "When I buy you, I'm freeing you from now." And Rebbe says, in this case, the eved is free. And the Torah says, don't make him stay by the Adam because he's free. So you see, a person's makna davar shalei b'layla. And where's Reb Meir? The Tanya Haimel Isha, Hared Mukadeshes Li, Lachesh Esgayer, our Mishnah, Lachesh et Esgayri, all examples of a davar shalei b'layla, Lachesh et Eshtachri, Lachesh et Eshtachri, Lachesh Shemus by Lacha, Lachesh Chasecha, Lachesh Yachli Tzach Yevomet, any Mikudesh. That's our Mishnah. But Reb Meir argues, Reb Meir Ayman Mikudeshes. So you see Reb Meir holds that a person could be makna davar shalei b'layla. Reb Meir Nasan Davar any Mikudeshes, because you cannot be makna davar shalei b'layla. Reb Yehuda Nasi Aymer Mikudeshes. Meikar did it's Mikudeshes. But by two cases, it's not Mikudeshes. By the case of someone being Makadosh, a woman who's already married, and he's marrying her la'akar that her husband should die, or he's going to his sister-in-law and he's marrying her after your sister, after my wife dies. Those two cases, midrabanan, it's not mikudeshes. You know why? Where we at? Yehuda Nasi Omer mikudeshes umatam amar eni mikudeshes mishum eva, because it's going to create a lot of sinna. Imagine you go to your sister-in-law, you tell her after your sister died, after she drops dead, I'll marry you. Your wife's going to be very angry. Or if you go to a lady and say, after your husband dies, I want to marry you, again, it's going to create Eva. That's why in those cases they were kosher. But my Ikar Din, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi holds that other Makadavar Shalei B'Layla. In fact, if that's the case, B'Nachshav Nami Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. So why wasn't Rabbi Yehuda Nasi also listed as one of the Tanoim who hold other Makadavar Shalei B'Layla? So Gemara, we already listed Rebbe Hainu Rebbe, Hainu Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rebbe is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Frank the Marvin Nashav Nami Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva also seems to hold that Odamak Dover Shalei B'Loilam. The Tanya we learned, a woman made a neder to aser her Ma'aseh Yadayim to her husband, even though he has a right to her Ma'aseh Yadayim. So Koinim Shani Yosel Leficha ain't Tzarech Lafer. The husband doesn't have to be made for because the neder doesn't even begin because she can't ask for something that's not hers, and her Ma'aseh Yadayim belong to him. Therefore, he doesn't even have to be made for. But Rabbi Kiva said, Yofer, maybe we should have him be made for anyway. You know why? Because what if she's a big earner and she produces a lot more money than what she's meshubed as far as her Ma'aseh Yadayim to provide to her husband? What if she earns more money? That's not it. That would be also. So therefore, it's a good idea for the husband to be made for, just in case she makes extra money. So the question is, it's a davar shelo b'loilam. Right now, when she's making the nether, she hasn't produced that. So how could she ask her to the nether? Elamai, you see, you could ask her a davar shelo b'loilam. So tomorrow, no, that's not a raya at all, because that's not a davar shelo b'loilam. You know why? Because itmar lo amar b'huna b'reid of Yeshua by Mary she kachu yodai lo yisayim. She wasn't mekala. She didn't ask her Ma'aseh Yadayim. She asked her hands legabi the Ma'aseh Yadayim that they produced. The Yadayim isn't ba'olam. Her hands are ba'olam. So it's not a davar shelo b'loilam at all. So in fact, Allah L'maisa, we have our mayor, we have Rebbe, and we have Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Well, the davar shelo b'loilam. Our Mishnah holds ain't the davar shelo b'loilam. And you have Rabbi Yochanan Chiddush that calls to biyadai laftim ch'maisa. That's not called the davar shelo b'loilam. About I want to know everybody a good davach, a bench davach, a mazel davach. Our learning should be a big schus for Yidin Eretz Yisrael. We shouldn't have any sorrows, no injuries. Everything should go with big atzlacha for our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. And Avram, Tovia ben Carmela, Yosefa should continue to have a refuah shalema. Baruch Hashem, he was in shul today, and he got an aliyah, and he ben shloimo. You should only hear b'suras toivos. A good tavach.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach.